All right, today on The Explainer, we're diving into something really intense. It's a psychological case study of a man who's convinced he's being hunted. We're going to look at his story, this feeling of persecution, this desperate search for power through the occult, and then a betrayal that just sends him right over the edge. So, yeah, let's break this down.
Okay, listen to this. I feel adrift at sea. I have no control of my mind. Wow, that one sentence right there from our subject, Timothy, it just perfectly captures the heart of his experience. It's this deep, deep feeling of being powerless, of total mental distress. And honestly, this is the very beginning of his really twisting story.
So just to be super clear up front, our goal here isn't to say if he's right or wrong. We're not trying to validate or debunk any of his claims. Think of this as an objective look at one man's personal story. We're really just trying to understand his narrative of paranoia, his turn to the occult to find some kind of power, and this perceived betrayal that follows. It's all about getting inside his worldview, understanding his psychological journey.
All right, so where do we even begin? Let's start with his state of mind. He basically describes it as a mind in total crisis. And this is our introduction to the man at the center of this, Timothy. And, he really doesn't pull any punches. He just comes right out and says it. This quote is so raw, so direct. It gives you this immediate gut punch of just how severe this crisis feels to him. It's a really blunt assessment of his own inner turmoil.
So, what does a mind in crisis actually look like for him, day to day? Well, he lists out some pretty serious symptoms. He says he just can't think straight. He can't even focus on simple things. He feels adrift, totally powerless. He's even losing a lot of weight fast. I mean, the distress is so bad, he mentions having to take a Percocet just to get himself to calm down. That tells you a lot.
Okay, so what's the source of all this, according to him? Where is this all coming from? Well, in his mind, the problem isn't something inside of him. Nope, he believes he's living in a world of persecution. And that single idea, that's the belief that shapes his entire reality.
The central idea here has a name. It's called gang stalking. You might have seen this term floating around online. It's basically the belief that you're being harassed, monitored, and psychologically tormented by these big, organized groups of people all working together. And for Timothy, this isn't just some abstract concept. It's literally the lens he sees everything through.
And yeah, Timothy is all in on this framework. He calls himself a targeted individual. He is absolutely convinced that he is under constant, organized attack. And he even gets specific. He names his persecutors, believing that entire forces, like the city of Virginia Beach, are out to get him. So, when you feel like the whole world is against you, what do? Well, he starts looking for a solution, right? A way to fight back. And for him, that journey begins with totally rejecting his old beliefs. And the contrast he paints here is, it's pretty stark. You've got Christianity on one side, which he calls fake-ass love and says it made my life worse. But then on the other side, he remembers a time when he practiced witchcraft, and he links that to massive success. We're talking 2 nice cars, all this money. His life, in his words, was so fucking awesome. So you can see how he gets to this conclusion. He flat out says, I was doing so much better before I invited Christ into my life. So for him, it's not just that traditional religion didn't work. He feels it was actually making things worse. It was actively harmful, pushing him away from the power and success he so desperately wanted. So, okay, if traditional faith is off the table, where do you turn? What's next? Well, this is where his journey takes a really dramatic turn. We're calling it the occult bargain. He decides to make a direct deal with a demon.
He feels like everything else has failed him, so Timothy decides to double down. He's moving past what he saw as general witchcraft and going straight to Satanism. He's looking for something that actually works. His logic is, if you're going to fight these incredibly powerful enemies, you need an even greater power on your side. And for him, that meant dealing directly with demons.
And let's look at how he says this actually worked. Because this wasn't just some vague wish. It was a step-by-step, almost business-like process. Step 1, identify the enemy. For him, the gang stalkers. Step 2, make the plea. He prayed directly to a specific demon, Malthus. Step 3, launch the attack. He sent Malthus to go after his enemies. And step 4, reap the rewards. And at first, he was very, 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 very fucking pleased with the results.
I mean, this was the absolute peak for him. You can hear the pure joy in his voice when he talks about it. He says, I couldn't believe how successful I was just jumping for joy. In that moment, he truly believes he's found it. The ultimate weapon. He has power, he has control, he's finally winning.
But, there's a but, right? This is where the story completely flips. Just when he thinks he's on top of the world, it all comes crashing down. This is the complication, a betrayal by darkness.
And the change is just bam. It's so jarring and so fast. He says, you know what the fucking bastard did? He betrayed me. The exact same power he used to fight his enemies has, in his mind, completely turned on him. It's a total 180, from triumph to absolute disaster. And the fallout from this perceived betrayal, it's just devastating. He talks about a total loss of mental control, no more spiritual power. His third eye is completely useless. He feels like he's being tortured by his own shadow. And there's that phrase again. He feels adrift at sea once more. He's somehow even more powerless than when he first started. So what happens after a betrayal like that? Well, it leads to the aftermath. He's left in this totally new psychological space, a world where he's convinced there are no rules. And you can really feel the depth of his anger and disillusionment in this next part. It's a really disturbing comparison. He says, I feel like Patrick Bateman from American Psycho. I just want my pain to be inflicted on others. I mean, that is a chilling way to express that desire for revenge. It's like he's completely given up hope. And you can kind of follow the twisted logic that gets him to this really dark place. He looks around and concludes there's no more rules. He sees powerful people, he thinks, breaking them all the time with no consequences. So he figures nobody's bound by them. And if that's true, well, the terrifying conclusion he comes to is, it means I can do it. He literally says, I can steal, I can murder them. So where does that leave him now? His final mindset seems to be this sense of entitlement that's born from feeling like a victim. He believes he was used and then thrown away like a piece of trash. And because of that, he feels like he's owed something. He's owed compensation. He deserves, in his mind, a life of absolute luxury to make up for all the pain. And that really brings us to the final thought I want to leave you with. Look, Timothy's story is obviously very extreme, but it does tap into a really basic human fear, doesn't it? The fear of being powerless and cast aside. So it leaves us with a pretty big question. When a person feels totally and completely discarded by the world, what rules are even left to follow?